Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and good evening, Tan, rather. Thank you for joining us in this exciting PD opportunity for our membership. As we continue to support our colleagues in this distance learning environment, it's been a real struggle, and again, a lot of celebrations. But in this webinar, we are joined by some wonderful colleagues from our Twitter PLN, or Professional Learning Network. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest hosts, Carol Salva, Tan Huyhn, and Katie Toppel. Our hosts are seasoned pros in working within the virtual world and bringing together like-minded educators like us from all over the world, either as facilitators or as participants themselves. I think that I want to begin with Carol. I don't know how to introduce this dynamic firecracker educator with the justice she deserves. I just don't know how to do it. But Carol is the co-author of a fabulous resource book called Boosting Achievement. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. The book study that I am currently facilitating, or trying to, with a group of educators, about 21 of them at the WCDSB. Carol's book is now being printed in Canada, yay, and available through special order. And I'm going to try to share some of these details later in an email, so don't worry about these details right now. Carol also offers personalized online book study herself, as well as trains and coaches educators online. You may have had the honor of meeting her at the CLD conference in the past. I think you've been twice, Carol, have you?
Yes, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's great. Tan is an international educator specializing in English language acquisition. He hosts a blog, which you can find on his amazing website, empoweringells.com. Again, I'll share that in an email. He does podcasts and online courses. And it's all devoted to teaching language learners like himself. But when you purchase Carol's book, when you purchase it, you will see that Tan and Carol are not strangers. Well, we know that anyways. In fact, Tan wrote the foreword in her co-authored book, Boosting Achievement. Tan, we are over the moon to have you here with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Katie. Katie is a K-5 ELD. In this case, ELD doesn't mean the same thing as it does for us in Ontario. It means English Language Development. She's a specialist in Oregon. She is the co-founder of #ELLchat_book or BK Club on Twitter, which is currently running its 25th round. I think 27 books though. And no need to jot this down, the hashtag, I'll send that again later. And I believe this round is ELL Shadowing is the book, Katie, yes?
There are 2 books this round, ELL Shadowing and then Transforming Literacy for Long-Term English Learners.
Awesome. And I just know, if I don't know anything else, I know this. If Katie recommends it, I read it or I put it on the to read pile. So, for example, Katie tweeted a quote from this book, Equitable Access for ELs, by Soto, Freeman, and Freeman. And I had it in my cart within 3 minutes of reading that tweet. So, Katie, thank you so very much for giving of your time today and being part of today's session. I have already informed our facilitators who their audience is. So, without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Katie, Tan, and Carol.
Well, thank you for having us. We are so honored to be here. Initially, Carrie said, Tan, we would like for you to help us facilitate the book club on breaking down the wall. And then and I said, oh, it's going to be about facilitating clubs for teachers. And I said, wait, I know who to bring into this conversation. Carol and Katie are just the stars here. And so we thought about the ways to support you. And this session is called Not Your Grandma's Book Class. The content objective for today is we can describe ways to facilitate a job-embedded book study for teachers. This is the language objective, by typing responses in the chat box, asking questions, and participating in the breakout group chats. So the way we're going to facilitate is, Carrie, can you do the next slide? Thank you. And what's going to happen is we're going to have Katie talk first about asynchronous book clubs. The next part is, the next part is we'll have a small breakout session, which Carol will facilitate. The next part is that Carol will talk about synchronous book clubs, so that now you have 2 options. After Carol's session, we will have a breakout room, and I will provide a synthesis if possible, if there's time. And then after that, we will have a question and answer session. We can go. So I'm gonna lead it off right away with Katie. So as Katie is talking, please feel free to ask comments and respond to each other's comments in the chat, and I'll respond as much as possible. Thank you. All right, Katie, take it away.
Can you go to the next slide, Carol? Thank you. So we started ELL Chapel Club 3 years ago, and it basically came authentically with me tweeting about a book I was going to read and Tan saying, hey, let's read it at the same time and tweet about it. And it's really grown into a huge community of readers and learners and educators who enjoy learning together. And I think when we talk about engagement and why it's engaging or how we keep people engaged, it's because we make sure to continuously change up what it's like. Not only do we read a different book, but we offer participants just different ways to interact and talk about the books. We've had just great growth in terms of using new platforms or new ways to post messages and things like that. We started to do live hangouts with people who are reading the book to talk. We've also had authors join, which is really great. We've used Padlet, we've used Flipgrid as a way to post introductions. That's the way that we now start every round. We have people post a short video. We give them a question that's not related to the book, just to kind of break the ice or have people get to know each other a little bit. That provides opportunities to respond to one another. So not only can we say, hi, I'm Katie and I live in Portland, Oregon. This is what I do for my job, but we can say something a little more personal and have a chance to share about why we're interested in reading the particular book that's been selected. And we offer participants different ways to talk about the book and show what they've learned. We've had people learn how to do book snaps, which is a way to kind of capture the text that they're reading and what they've highlighted, and they can annotate what they're reading. We typically ask people to post their bookie, which is their selfie holding the book, which is another great way to kind of just be visible about what we're reading and build community. This round, I noticed that in the midst of virtual learning, these virtual classrooms are becoming a thing. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that too. Why not? It's embracing what teachers are doing and seeing and using for their students, or what they potentially could use with their students, and using it with the book chat so that they can kind of dip their toe in or see what it's like and then maybe use it themselves. So I created this virtual classroom. It is clickable so that participants can click on the word Flipgrid and they are linked to the Flipgrid page where they can do their video. They can click on the reading schedule and get right to that. And it's all a slideshow where pages connect back to one another. So my goal was, after doing this for 25 rounds, I've kind of seen where people get confused or where they don't know, where they ask questions. And I've tried to make it very simple. I think this is kind of the best iteration of that, but all of the information they need is kind of within this one tweet that I posted, so that they can find the questions, the schedule. We even have the book chat swag, but it's just meant to be kind of easy and seamless for them to find information that they want. One of the things that I think makes participants particularly interested in our book chat is that we have a lot of author involvement. Not every round, but most rounds, we're able to have the authors interacting with what participants say. We have the authors sharing videos and thanking readers for appreciating their work. We have authors that are clarifying, understanding as they're commenting and interacting with participants. And we have authors that will do live Google Meets with us, or Zoom calls or Hangouts or whatever platform we want to use, where we can ask them questions about their book, their expertise, what they want us to know. And that feels like something very special when it comes to reading a book. We always feel like these scholars and experts in the field are just celebrity status. But what kind of has been an interesting piece of learning is that they're really excited to talk to us because we're reading their work. It takes a lot of time and effort to go into writing a book, and they're equally as excited to have people who are talking about their passion and their work. So the clip on the left is when we read Breaking Down the Wall, and that was a powerhouse of experts in the field. And so many of them took the time to post on our Flipgrid and say, welcome, thank you for reading. And so many of them actively participated in the chat and, tweeted at us and with us and retweeted what we said, and were excited and were really engaged. And it wasn't just kind of an obligatory, oh, thanks for reading. It was true engagement with us, which makes the process of reading and talking about their work just that much more exciting, I think. Carol, can you go to the next slide?
Trying.
Something that I've seen over the course of so many different books and rounds is that there is a point at which time engagement seems to be a little bit saturated and people start not talking about the book as much. There's always this huge buildup and excitement with all of the book selfies and Flipgrid videos, and then usually 3-4 weeks in, it kind of tapers off. And so we've thought about ways to sustain engagement and what could we do to make sure that people are tweeting and posting and really still processing and actively learning throughout the entire book. And so these are 2 examples of games that we've done. When we read Larry Ferlazzo's book, The ELL Teacher's Toolbox, we had a bingo board. And so each of the squares represented something that participants could do. And we structured it so that they focused on 2 specific chapters a week, or 2 specific strategies, because the chapters are by strategies. And so there was kind of a pull to continue posting throughout because they were able to mark off their bingo board. And then this was around where we offered some prizes and things like that, so that the more squares you had, the more exciting it was. And that was something that people seemed to really, really enjoy. And then we found some people taking that bingo game board and bringing it just to their actual campus and doing it with their own school site. So not everyone is on Twitter. Not everyone wants to participate specifically in ELL Chat Book Club, but school leaders or teachers can take the format and the structure and the ways that we communicate and bring it just to their school. So when Carol talks more about a synchronous book study, some of these ideas still apply whether you're doing it on Twitter or whether you're doing it actually sitting in a room and meeting with colleagues. The game board on the right is what we did when we read the book Refugee. Tan created both of these. And this was meant to be that you could advance for every time you tweeted about the book, you could advance on the game board. And so there weren't any specific requirements of what you tweeted, but it was kind of fun to just make sure people were continuing along the game board the whole time. So with these structures in place, we found that people really did stay more engaged for the long haul as opposed to a burst of engagement and then not finishing. And it's not necessarily that people don't finish the book, they do, but often my experience with book clubs is sometimes people don't stay with the schedule because they love the book so much. And rather than reading a chapter at a time over the course of 8 weeks, they're like, I can't get enough, I finished it. And then they may kind of forget about the whole, I'm supposed to be tweeting and answering questions and engaging with a community of learners because they just dove in and read so much at once. I always found that when I did just in-person, not non-teacher related book clubs, that sometimes people had a hard time discussing because they read too far. And when we were reading, novels like The Hunger Games or something like that, they read beyond where we were supposed to, and then they didn't want to talk because they forgot what they should have read versus what they had already found out and didn't want to do spoilers. So just keeping ideas of how to keep it fresh and how to keep it exciting for people. And even if it's holding something and not revealing it until midway so that it's something new and interesting for people to engage in. Can you go to the next slide? So these are some examples of things that we've done. We've had amazing publishers donate books to our book chat so that we could give them away. We've had PSYOP gave us numerous copies of Making Content Comprehensible. We had multiple copies of Unlocking English Learners' Potential. And then Opening Doors to Equity was not a book that we read, but we did read one by Tanya Ward Singer, and that was another one of her amazing texts that she wrote. So the lure of a free book is always really exciting. And we're so thankful to the publishers for donating them, because we know the price of books adds up. Carrie said she puts everything I recommend in her cart, and that can be spendy. So getting books donated and being able to give them to participants is really, really a nice feature. And then we also gave away just some fun teachery things, highlighters and journals, and that was an old version of the ELL Chat Book Club t-shirt that Valentina created. Things like that are just exciting. We would do a live video to draw winners and announce them, and then tweet out who had won and send out their packages. And so things like that are also things we've tried to do to keep people excited, because we tied the giveaways to their learning. So it wasn't just anyone who participated is eligible to win. It was like the picture on the left, share your gems of wisdom from the book chat. What did you learn? What are your biggest takeaways? And then from the people who participated in that, their names would go in. Or the one for Tanya Ward Singer's book, any time they tweeted within a certain window of time, that was one entry. And so those are ways to just promote people to be actively participating and not just reading, because we know that when we read on our own, there's huge value in that. But when we start talking with others and seeing what they got from the book or their spin on it, or having those conversations about what we're reading, that's when the learning really skyrockets. So keeping people engaged and sustaining engagement is really, really huge. I think I have another slide. Yeah. So one of the questions is, how do we choose books? Being connected on Twitter gives access to a lot of kind of what's current and what's new. Also, I get in the mail flyers from many different publishers, and it's like, I look through, I want to read that, I want to read that, I want to read that. So that's where I get a lot of my ideas, through those educational book flyers and just through seeing new text being tweeted on Twitter. So typically what I do is I narrow it down. I'll ask for suggestions and see what other people are interested in reading, and narrow it down to anywhere between 3 and 5 choices. And then we put out a Google form and have people vote, because part of the engagement piece is the choice that people who participate have had a say in what we read, and it's something that they're interested in. So then we take a look at the poll, and I usually give people at least a week to respond. I take a look and I look at the numbers. This particular round, the 2 top choices were so close, we decided to do both of them. And so, in some rounds, it's been a landslide where one book is so much more popular than others. In some, we have a runner-up that's really strong, and I'll go ahead and just use that book for another round. But it really gives a chance to see what people are most interested, so that when we choose the book, people tend to be more engaged because it's something that they were really interested in reading. And then, this is the compilation of all the books that we've read. There's 27 texts total across 25 rounds. There have been a few rounds where we did a book set and read 2 at once, or offered a choice for participants. It's just another way to keep people engaged. If some people wanted to read, for example, Pathways to Greatness, but other people wanted to read The Newcomers, they were on the same topic and provided a lot of great conversation for people who had read one or the other or both. And then this time we have ELL Shadowing and Transforming Literacy for Long-Term English Learners. And again, there's a lot of connection and cross-learning. And so that's another way to keep people engaged. It's a fun way. What I've suggested for this round is, for those reading ELL Shadowing, find a partner that's reading the other book, and then just connect over your learning. So the buddy system is great. Carol will talk more about synchronous book chats, but if you wanted to do 2 books, that would be a great way to kind of jigsaw out learning and things like that. But this right here represents so many great books, really the basis of my professional learning over the course of the past 3 years. So much expertise. And so I highly recommend those.
So sorry, I did not mean to advance there, Katie. Were you
Okay,
done? I love the image of all of the books, but thank you for sharing all of that. Is it okay with you if I facilitate this conversation real quick?
Yes.
Okay. So on your screen right now, whether I can see your image or not, we're expecting that 54 people will engage with us in this conversation right now. So I'd like you to please think about the question. Don't unmute yourself. You're going to get a chance to talk in just a second, but I'm looking across to see you with your thumb up when you can finish this sentence frame. So think about the strategies. The question is, what is a strategy that resonated with you? But no wrong answers. Just show me your thumb when you can complete this sentence frame. And I'm going to say it, and you could read it out loud with me. Follow my cursor down here. One strategy that has resonated with me is. Show me your thumb when you have that answer, and I'm going to look across and wait for everybody to be showing me their thumb. And if, yay, some people have figured out how to show the thumbs up electronically, and that's great. Okay, so I'm just giving you guys a minute of wait time to come up with your own strategy. Here's how this is gonna go. I'm gonna put you in a breakout room. Don't stress out if you haven't done breakout rooms or if all the tech, don't stress about the tech right now, because thankfully this is gonna be available in video recording to you in replay. But right now, if you're able to accept it, you're gonna get an invitation to go into a breakout room. What I'd like you to do, please, you'll have about 6 minutes in that breakout room. Please let everyone share the strategy. And if you finish sharing that strategy, ask them follow-up questions. Why was that one important to you? Try to please get right past as fast as you can. Where do you work? Where do I work? Because I'm gonna pull you back in 6 minutes, and I'm gonna randomly call on one of you to tell me what somebody else said in that breakout room. So make sure that y'all can get to as quickly as possible talking about the strategy that resonated with you. Okay, to do this, I have to stop screen sharing. So here is your opportunity to take a picture of this slide with your phone, or even just to jot down one strategy. That sentence frame would probably be fine. One strategy that really resonated with you, because it's about to go away. All right, I'm stopping the screen share, coming back here so that I can create breakout rooms. If you don't know about how to create breakout rooms, my company just did a quick 30-minute webinar on how to facilitate structured conversations in virtual classrooms. All right, so we are gonna have about 3 or 4 people, and we might pop in and out of your rooms, or we might not, but we're definitely bringing you back in about 6 minutes to tell us something that was said. Okay. Okay, I have almost everybody back. Okay, I think I have everybody back. Okay, so I'm gonna randomly call on one of you to please, and if your mic is, if your camera's off, that's fine. You can still unmute yourself to let us know. I'm gonna screen share back to that same, the same slide. So if you don't mind, I'd just like a complete academic sentence. You don't have to say it exactly like this, but a sentence frame that's here for you is one strategy that has resonated with me is, or I told you could say something that was said in your group by somebody else. So I have an old school dice here, and I am just gonna roll it, and I've got a 5, and I'm going to the participant list. On my screen, that's Rose. Rose Asta. Are you there, Rose? Can you unmute?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi, Rose.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for sharing with us. And everybody else, I'd ask you to listen to Rose, just in case the next person I call on, I ask you, how's that the same or different from what you said in your group? So Rose, tell us, what was a strategy that resonated with you or someone in your group?
We talked about how, and if someone wants to jump into my group to help me out, it was just in regards to how it was framed and how the author was being available to assist with some of the conversation. That we felt was probably the most meaningful thing with respect to enriching the talk and bringing out elements of whatever it is that you're reading that resonates with other participants in the group. we hadn't been in a professional book club at that point, so we were just sort of talking about how this is an exciting time for all of us to appreciate some of the learning that's happening today. So we're quite happy to be here. But the author's voice, I think, was the most important learning that we discussed in our group.
Thank you for sharing that. Everybody, like, give her some snaps that she could see if your cameras are on, because that is, first of all, super brave. You know, you didn't have a choice, but we appreciate you speaking up for your group. Thank you so much. Katie, did you want to respond to that in any way? Because I think it's going to transition into the next part, but I didn't know if you wanted to say anything follow up. I found her words very powerful.
Yeah, I did. Not all authors are on social media or out there. So if that's something that really is important to you, take a peek at who is. Like Andrea Honigfeld is super active on Twitter. Carol is super active on Twitter. There are a lot of authors that are willing to do that. And so if you really would like author participation, shoot them a DM and say, hey, we're considering your book and we'd love to have you interact with us, or just, ask them. Sometimes authors will do things at cost, and sometimes if they're tweeting or responding to you, they're doing that just because they love what you're talking about. So investigate that up front, and it's likely that you'll be able to go into the chat with a book and an author that is excited to collaborate with you.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Katie. So I'm going to transition now, and I appreciate you guys and your engagement, definitely. It's a great segue because a lot of us are working. I appreciate so much everything I've learned from Katie and Tan's asynchronous book chats over the years. I do these with districts, and we're meeting together periodically, right? So similar to what you would do in a physical campus, you would meet after school in someone's classroom and talk about what you read that week. So I'm facilitating those, but there's a big difference when people don't have a choice, when they're being asked to do this book study. Now what I'm trying to do is capitalize on what I have learned from Katie and Tan and from the book chats, because I have participated in many, and I'm trying to layer that into like how you would run a virtual classroom, really. So what I'm going to be talking to you about are these synchronous weekly book studies. So you could do these face-to-face or online, and I'm doing all of mine online. So here's the biggest tips that I have for you in how to do these. So if the participants do not get a choice in the book, well, first of all, I would tell you it would be really fantastic if you could do what Katie's done for us a few times, is give us a choice between 3 books. Even that, you've had some control over what the books are, but the participants feel some autonomy there. And I'm not just making this up. Of course, I'm going, this is the work of Larry Ferlazzo and Daniel Pink. Researchers are very clear on what helps people find their motivation. This has not changed. This is what helps people find their own motivation, because I can't motivate another person, but I can create conditions where motivation should grow. And so I want to layer in as many of these 4 things as I can. So even if where is the autonomy for the person? Let me go over these words real quickly, because this is what I'll be talking about. Autonomy means you have some control. You have some choice in something. Competence means you feel like you can get better at something. Think about kids that play video games and fail over and over and over again, but they think they can get better at it, so they don't give up. The relatedness piece is, what is the relationship between me and the person, or between the participants themselves? With education in mind, if you read this article that Larry Ferlazzo, I have a link to it, it's linked here. Relatedness in education is, does the student or the participant feel that they have a relationship, that they're respected? It's all relationships, right? It's always relationships. So as a student, do I feel like my teacher cares about me? As a participant, do I feel like the other participants care about my voice? You know, what are the relationships piece? The relevancy is nothing new in education. Why is this relevant to me? Why are we learning this? Why is this important to my life? So I'm going to take you through, because I have a laser focus on these things anytime I do any professional development. And now when it's online, these have to be, I have to start. If I'm going to try to do something synchronous or asynchronous, this is where I'm starting, but it's where I've always been. Here are some examples of a recent book study that I did with 88 participants. It was an entire high school, all the coaches, all the, you know, high school, everybody in the school, even the secretaries, even the counselors. And we met once a week for 5 weeks for an hour. Now they had work between, right? They were reading a chapter of the book, but here's where I put in some autonomy. Answer 2 of the questions. There were many questions, but they only had to answer the 2 that they wanted to answer. Of course, I'm working in choice boards, and some of that doesn't require any tech. Get a piece of paper. Do what, you know, how would you, you know, interact with this page of the book? You know, pick one. Definitely Flipgrid and a lot of those things that Katie showed us, I'm going to be using a little bit at a time because I want to keep it simple. But I absolutely want to offer choice because of the autonomy piece. So at the beginning, the first week, there may not be as much choice because I don't want to overwhelm people. But I definitely want them to have some choice, even if it's just which questions, which platform, do they want to do it on a Flipgrid or Google Doc, and choice boards are some ways to offer autonomy. Because we're meeting once a week for 5 weeks, I have more that I can do than your average book study. I'm going to capitalize on the same thing. We came together to talk about what we have read. Now there's accountability in what they've read, because y'all just saw me have accountability for you in your breakout rooms with support. So everybody's always supported to be able to answer, but because we're meeting together, I can model some strategies and some practices that they can use in their virtual or face-to-face classroom. So I'm not going to start any meeting without a content and language objective, and sometimes it's all together as one, so I can show them that you can do that as well. I'm annotating the objectives. We have an exit ticket, and the exit ticket is a sentence frame. Remember, I have content teachers in there, so I'm helping the content teachers see how this is going to boost learning for everyone. It's not just about language, it's about reflection. And I bring in John Hattie's work, and I'm showing them research, why we're doing this in this hour. And of course I have video. This is a favorite video because this kid right here falls asleep when I'm teaching. And teachers love a non-example. And there was just a big misstep here in my classroom. I was doing a co-created text and I didn't do this interactive QSSA strategy and the kids were not engaged. So one of them fell asleep and I'm reflecting on that. I want them to see the competence piece. You can do this. We don't need to be perfect at this. We just need to reflect and get better. We want to get good at getting better. And so we're modeling strategies, but we're also showing them that we're all in this together and we're all just getting better. So now I've told you about autonomy and competence. Here's what I do for relatedness. For relatedness, remember that this is where people feel honored and feel that an adult or someone, I keep talking about like if I'm working with students, but working with participants, if you're the principal or you're the head of the Ministry of Education in their area, how do they feel that you respect their voice, their individual voice, and what they bring to the table? Because everyone brings something to the table. So something I like to do is always pull out, because remember they had exit tickets and I have a Google Doc where they're interacting during the week on the questions. So I will pull out a few and spotlight people because they do say amazing things, of course. So we start our book study usually, or our week, by talking about, I just pull out a few quotes and we have a quick in the chat, what do you think about this? Things like that. So connect authentically too. If you've sent them to do a Flipgrid during the week, be on the Flipgrid, respond to people, comment in the Google Docs. Connect with them during those asynchronous times, because what you have at your advantage with this kind of learning is synchronous and asynchronous. During the week is when most of the learning is happening, when they're reading on their own. So maybe you want participants to lead a week. Katie is fantastic and Ton are fantastic about letting participants lead some of these rounds, or maybe just one session, or maybe a Google Hangout. And people want this. Everybody has so much to share. So we will all, I get more out of this when I let the participants, I learn from the participants, of course I do. Okay, and the last part I want to talk about is the relevancy. How is this relevant to you in your job? You're working in London, Ontario, in Thames Valley, in your high school, right there, you're a teacher and you're participating in this book study. Connect the dots for them. How is this going to be so significant to you? So I was in Storm Lake, Iowa, and we started we just started with the demographics in their area. And a lot of the people that were participating had no idea that they knew their reality in their classroom, but they didn't realize the community demographics. So this fosters conversations. And then this is just an example of one of the exit tickets. This is from the part of my book where it goes over grit and growth mindset. So their exit ticket was, look at how it's relating to them as an individual. A challenge I am facing as an educator is blank. However, and so we had just spent an hour and we read about kids who overcome, and like Carrie says, they learn to turn on the tech, and what does that open them to? And we want to look at from an asset lens, all of our students. So I know you as an educator, you're going through some hard things right now. I know you are. Let's look at how we can overcome that. So I'm getting a lot of this from Dorina Ebwe, Believe Cafe. So I even want to give them a link. If you're really going through some hard things, go check out her YouTube channel. It'll better your life. You'll be in a better place mindset wise. But all of this is helping them see the relevancy, not only with their students, but themselves in this learning. So we have a lot of opportunities because we are syncing up. And I'm going to try to capitalize on a lot of the things that Katie went through at the beginning of this presentation. We'll do choice boards, we'll do book snaps, we'll do all of those things a little at a time, because remember, you don't have a bunch of people who signed up for this. So we want to, every week show a little bit more bells and whistles and keep telling people you really don't need any of this. All you need is engagement and connection with your students. And there's so many ways we can do that. So I definitely want to model keeping it simple and offering more things. Here's one of my top tips. And I just did this webinar, and so it's available to you guys. I did a 30-minute webinar on how I run my classroom. So I run these book studies or these engagements with campuses the same way. This is how I used to run it when we were in a face-to-face world. I would discuss things with students because we were going to have a connection. Remember the author connection? We were going to have some kind of connection. And so we would discuss it and discover things. And these SLIFE students, these are kids who don't read in any language, but they can absolutely read a page of a book with me because the author's coming. They can practice and practice and practice their questions, and they get a lot of literacy in this. So my routine over and over again throughout the year is discuss, discover, connect, and then we reflect. Well, so I would run the book studies the same way. We can discuss things over Zoom or over Flipgrid. We can discuss things with people like we are right now. We can discover things. I can play Cahoots synchronously and asynchronously now. We still have the internet. And the connection I want to offer you does not need to be the author. The authors aren't always available. But your connection could be, I've done several where I just record a video answering the questions that the book study had. And so they're going to use that in week 5. Put that connection out toward the end. Don't make the mistake of doing the connection early on, because exactly like in our classrooms, the learning happens before the connection. You do it early, you'll lose, it'll fall flat, in my opinion. So another connection is we connect with other book studies. We connect with a book study that's happening in another part of the world, and we talk to them about their questions and what they thought about the book. So there's different things that you can connect with some students that live in the area. The internet opens us up to so many authentic connections, but really the connection piece is about the authenticity of somebody beyond the teacher that they're connecting with. So consider that. And yeah, I just love this because that high school, I told them, no, you don't have to put your picture on the flip grid. And so many of them do. I just think it's fantastic because this is right by week 4 or 5, not the first week. Okay, so we're going to do one more structured conversation. What I'm modeling here is something called QSSA. I did it with Katie's question. I'm going to do it with us again right now. And again, this is available to you. You can Google QSSA. Here's a question for you guys, and you're going into the same breakout groups. What are the ways that you can adapt what I showed you, anything about what I showed you, meeting periodically? It doesn't have to be the author that runs the book study, of course. How could you adapt it for your context? How could you adapt anything that I said? So everybody, please go ahead. I asked everybody to please raise your hand. So let's go ahead and raise our hands real quick. I'm looking for everybody's hands raised. Put your hand down when you think you can finish this frame. One way I can adapt this to my context is by, put your hand down when you have an idea. What's something you could do in your reality? Doesn't have to look exactly like I said, but how could you adapt it? So here's your chance to jot down one way I can adapt this. That would, or you could take a picture of this screen right now because I'm about to log off of it. Okay. So I can't put you in breakout rooms if I'm screen sharing. I learned that recently. Okay. All right. So you'll have another 6 to 7 minutes to share in the same breakout room. Please accept that invitation and go have a great conversation. I'll randomly call on one of you when you come back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm sorry if I didn't make it into your breakout room, but I was trying to make it around. And like I mentioned before, we just did a webinar, a 30-minute webinar where Dr. Stephen Fleener showed everybody how to do this. So if you haven't checked out the Silence Education webinars, there's lots of tips and things like this, very short. Okay, I think everybody's back pretty much. So I was trying to model how we would go around to desks and groups of students having conversations by popping in and out of some of the breakout rooms, making sure people are ready, or helping facilitate conversations just like I would if I were in a classroom. Person 9, let's see if you can you, Heather Moffat? Heather, do you think that you could unmute and share something that was said in your breakout room?
Sure, I can. Maybe I'll just speak from my own perspective in our breakout room. I talked about one way that I could adapt this, sort of fell in the relevancy piece in terms of the synchronous reflection. We have opportunity often in our board because we're a fairly urban center where we can come together as a group, whether it's content area teachers or ESL itinerant teachers, and using those face-to-face times for some synchronous reflection, but keeping the momentum going asynchronously through the virtual learning environment.
Absolutely. Could y'all give her some props, just some kind of snaps or something? I think this is the goal. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think this is the goal, is how do we adapt it? It's not going to look exactly like this. Your situation is different. I did get a question that somebody wanted the webinar I was just talking about the interaction. So I just put a link in the chat because that is all of our webinars. And the most recent one is called Fostering Interaction in a Virtual Environment. And Dr. Stephen Fleener just gave that one yesterday. And he went through very specifically how you might do these kind of things synchronously or asynchronously. So the link is right there. So thanks for asking for that, Atala. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share again. But I was trying to model, and I really appreciate the interaction. Key points. I'm going to give this back to Tan. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Kara. we only have about 2 or 3 minutes left, but these are the key points that as I was listening, I was writing down as much as possible. But let's have this opportunity to write questions that you would have for Carol and Katie, and let's see if they can answer it. So if you have questions right now, this would be great to do that. And secondly, I'm going to be sharing the link to a survey. It would be great if you could please complete the survey because it helps us understand how we can improve our facilitation style as well. So we're waiting for questions. If there are, it's not a problem. And yes, this is their survey. And then I'm going to share once again the slides. If you need the slide, they're all here for you. And in the future, Carol will be sharing the webinar again without the breakout.
Yes, this video is going to be available on my YouTube channel and later today. And I'll give Carrie that link so that she can send it out to everyone. So we're just looking in the chat to see if you guys had any additional questions. We really appreciate the opportunity to share here and to model some things that I think we hope make a difference.
Well, while you're waiting for questions, do you mind if I quickly interject here with a thank you? A sincere thanks, and I will speak on behalf of all of my colleagues. I hope they're okay with that. You know, that beyond learning how to host online book studies here today, so much more has come out of this that we can use in our practice. Breakout rooms, sentence framing, timing, offering choice, some of the apps that you were using, Katie's splendid display of all the books that she's done, because I might be missing a couple of those titles, Katie, but I'll get on that. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I learned way more than I anticipated today in this jam-packed session. It's really powerful that we got all this done in an hour, that you got all of this done in an hour. So thanks to you, Tan, for bringing this powerhouse team together for us today. You know, I was trying not to take too much credit with the emails that were coming to me from the membership saying, Carrie, how did you pull this off? I didn't, Tan did, quite frankly. So thank you all for giving of your time to us today. We are all in this together. We are all on the front lines fighting for and advocating for our English language learners in the province of Ontario and beyond. So thank you so much for joining us, Carol, Katie, and Tan.
We just want to say that we have such a special place in our hearts for leaders in the district like you. You're not in the classroom as much, and I know that you leave the classroom to help teachers and support families. And like what you're doing, though you're not in the classroom, is you're directly impacting the lives of students and families with the work that you're doing. And so we're just honored to be able to support you and collaborate with you. If you need anything, please text Katie and Carol, as Carol is an expert in leading live continuous sessions, and Katie is the expert in really leading asynchronous, at your own time, slow chat learning experiences. So I'm just here spotlighting their expertise. Thank you, Carrie, again for letting us share with your district.
And if the membership can give them that would be great. I learned how to do that today too.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. We won't take any more time. Have a great day.
We will now.
If anybody wants to stay back and take a quick screenshot picture. This is also going to be in the recording. How funny. Yeah, that's a group of rock stars right there. Thank you.